right? Because we have to have that buyer agency signed before you show them the house.
Right.
So even if it's on the card.
I kind of like the idea yesterday though about just have a one. You can sign one for every. Theoretically, you can sign one for every house you show.
This is good for today.
Or they also sent the Q&A about you can amend it. It doesn't say you can't amend this.
Yeah.
So
there's been some online discussion about that, so I think that remains to be played out.
Yeah.
Any contract can be amended.
Right.
Now,
I can have a stack of blanket of amendments and like, you know, is that I mean, this is the whole tricky part about if the seller's offering 3% and we agree with the buyers, not 2%, whatever reason. Extra percent is kind of silly.
And your buyer's not going to object to you making more money if it's coming from the seller. They're just not. What do they care?
We have sticky notes. We have sticky notes.
The concern I have is when you have these people without a lot of money down,
Correct.
and the seller offers concessions. Those concessions are limited, and now if your commission's coming out of those concessions and you do an inspection and want concessions, you can't get them.
There's a lot of intricacies to this whole thing, and it's all going to be individual. Every single, it's the only difference is we can't publish the compensation on the MLS.
Yeah.
That's literally the only difference. Doesn't mean it's not going to be there. It's just not going to be published on Real Comp.
I agree that I think that the other difference is the perception of people is that it's changed. So people, in my experience, they feel like in the past they didn't really question it very much, and now they feel empowered to question it.
And that's where our
But
practicing.
it's not really the, nothing hasn't changed. I agree, I understand you saying that, but people's perception is it's changed. So they start thinking that they.
I think it's our job to educate them as to what those limitations are and why that may not be in the best interest.
Trouble seller who's caused lots of drama, and one of our agents, and he's a builder building. He's got one house ready to go, and his plans to build 2 or 3 others. He's a developer builder himself. Not the nicest guy. We are ABO on the property, not a listing. This is broker, right? ABO on the property. There was 2 showings, and builder guy happens to be working on the other properties while these are happening. And he approaches the buyer and the buyer's agent who are showing the ABO property. Hey, just so you know, you should ditch your agent. So this is in front of the agent. You don't need to be working with her. I can sell you one of these, no problem, off market. I don't know if you heard about the big lawsuit, but agents aren't worth anything anymore. And the agent goes, well, I've worked with your agent several times. She's lovely. The literal best. And he's like, yeah, I will be listing these other ones with her because, you know, agents aren't worth anything and they're overpaid anyway.
It is super easy to turn around and go, wow, do you think this gentleman is going to be looking out for your best interests? Or would you rather have me helping you work with him? He just made it really clear in that statement what value the agent brings, because he's going to nail you to the ball, right?
Yeah. And so our agent called me and she's like, okay, let's do it again. And she goes, what should I do? I said, well, please apologize profusely to the other agent. And she said, oh gosh, we're good. You know, she knows. And I said, well, they had an inspection on the agent property that morning. I'm like, I hope it goes through because I want you to get paid. And if not, I'm really happy to tell them to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is it a, who is this guy?
All right, so everybody online, what we're doing right now is we're masterminding, but we're going to get into our meeting, right?
Are we?
Yeah.
We can.
We didn't even.
I mean, we have a slideshow. The slideshow is short.
Well, Feedy and the home were on, and then they heard we weren't having meetings, so they're off.
Yeah, we're not having an official meeting today because it seems really silly to just talk at all of you right now. So we can. Billy's got some stats updates to share with us.
Are we doing the live thing here?
Value squared be today from 1 to question mark.
But in here.
Here and in Howell. You can also do it from home if you want.
Was it?
Value squared.
how, with this new lawsuit, it's basically a way for you to, tell. It's, should be, it might be quasi required.
All right, so what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go over a new calculator that Victor has made for us.
I'll start.
That's going to help us with the buyer consultation conversation. Buyer consultation conversation.
Is Victor on vacation too? I thought he was.
Victor rolled his ankle.
His wife's
Doing
gone,
his
he rolled
housework?
his ankle and on the curb, and he's at home with no wife to take care of him.
He's
Well,
trying to figure out.
All right, so we will get this calculator sent out to everybody, I believe, correct?
Billy, what are you throwing up on the TV?
People that are in charge of sending things. Lori, right?
I don't know anything about this, so I think Angela's on.
Angelina will make sure that this calculator gets sent out to everybody for their use. Now, what's going to be super important is that we, and I was talking with Aaron about this earlier, is that we're going to have to retrain our minds and remove the limiting beliefs of us not caring or knowing or even asking about the buyer's financial position, meaning how much cash they have. I know I haven't always, in fact, I've never really asked that question. So I think it'll be super useful if we start understanding that and talking through the lending process initially.
What was the question? How much cash?
Knowing how much cash the buyer has on hand to buy a house with. And the reason why that's important is because now if we're going to ask them to start paying all or some of our commission, we should and need to know that so that we're not writing bad offers, right? So this calculator is going to be super helpful with that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find out from the buyer. I don't know why I can't play with this. Let's see. We'll find out. Oh, yeah, but I need to, it's not working either.
You need the dongle, that's why.
Does it want to?
Oh, here it is. All right, so when you get this calculator, believe me, it works. It works on my computer, just not this one. What we're gonna wanna do is ask how much the buyer have, whether it's funds from parents or FBI, as Victor would say, fathers, brothers, in-laws. And then how much they have in the bank, how much they are willing and able to put down on a house or have funds for closing. So let's say, for example, this buyer has $25,000 to buy a house with. I don't know why this isn't working. So you put that in there and then you put in your purchase price. Let's say this house is $325,000, which is pretty normal priced house for, let's say, a first-time home buyer right now. Percent down, let's say it's an FHA loan, 3.5%. I just ran this scenario, so it actually works, even though you can't see it. So the down payment's gonna be whatever 3.5% of 325,000 is. So let's call that, what, 11,000?
You have to enable it to be,
I don't know.
okay, because at the top it might say enable. Enable editing.
Where would that be?
At the top, way at the top of the spreadsheet.
This is in there.
Oh, I don't want to know what you.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. Anyways, 25 grand, 3.5% down on the current interest rates, which are 6.625 right now. So they have the down payment, the closing costs, which are automatically adjusted based off of sale price. Putting the first years of taxes, which at that price point is probably somewhere around $4,200. I always use $1,200 a year for homeowners insurance. Could be less, could be more, but that's a good place to start. And then whatever y'all charge for your processing fee, we do $495. So in this scenario, with $25,000 to work with, I put the buyer's agent compensation at 1.5%, hoping that the seller is going to offer at least 1.5%. And this being a worst case scenario for the buyer situation, they would have to come up with that other 1.5% on the 3.25 purchase price.
If they
What-
have the money.
What's that?
What if they don't?
we find out how much they do
Okay,
have, and we put that up top.
what would you walk away from them if they say I can't do the 1.5%?
That's a great question, and we'll have
We can talk
to,
about it
we'll
later.
talk through that on Thursday when we all do role play, not just watch somebody do role play, but we all do role play. So in this scenario, the buyer actually was short by about $4,000 when I ran it. So when that happens, we're gonna have to talk through that and figure out how exactly that's going to work moving forward. So like the question you just asked, what would you do if they can't afford it? So do you move forward and only show them houses that are, or that they can afford to buy? I think that's probably what we're gonna have to do, and have them just understand that if you want to work with me, we can only look at houses you can afford. Which sounds kind of dumb to say out loud, but
Yeah, no, I know.
No, because that's still a scenario that happens today.
right.
You know, like, oh, it's only 15 grand over. Well, you're the one, how much money you have, like, we still have that conversation right now.
So this spreadsheet, when you have it, it should work on your computer. If it doesn't, talk to Victor. But I would have this spreadsheet ready and open when you're doing a buyer consultation. And we should all be redoing buyer consultations with buyers we're already working with. So what this also means is we're also going to understand how loans work, how affordability is figured out, what different loan programs mean, what their down payments are, and what the PMI responsibility is for the different loan things. So that we can, at the buyer consultation, determine whether or not they can and are able to buy a house. Yes, ma'am.
So just obviously your past experience, it's very new, but a lot of the time when we first sit down with someone, they're not approved yet, so you won't know if there's FHA or scenarios. Shoot, what was my question? Okay, I don't remember now. Yeah,
So-
I have really.
Around that though, so you're sitting down with the buyer, they haven't done the approved.
That's it, so we're discussing at a budget and guessing if they have.
Right, so, Karen, I'm gonna take you through this spreadsheet to show you some examples. and some- Now, this could change, and once we get you pre-approved, I'm gonna sit with Victor and update these numbers and send you updated. It's no different than a seller net sheet, so yeah, I brought the seller net sheet based on guesses, right?
And that title company actually does fire, actually, everybody knows.
So we don't want the title company to be doing that anymore, because if they walk away from the table not knowing what's happening, there's probably 50-50 chance they're not coming back to that table, right? This does that for you. This puts
Right.
that out there. Gary's gonna actually talk, or Jason's actually gonna talk today about a situation where Gary did a buyer consultation for Jason. As Jason's the buyer, Gary's the agent. And the very first thing Gary did was pull out a sheet of paper and a pencil and figure out how much he can afford. Just by doing, how much do you make? What are
Yeah.
your liabilities? And, you know, what's the 46% of that monthly income, blah, blah, blah. We'll have to start doing more of that. And quite frankly, if we want to ask somebody to pay us $15,000, we should probably be more knowledgeable and do more stuff than opening doors and writing contracts. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but I mean, it's stepping on lenders' toes and stuff
I know,
too, like that's.
But
really-
that gets us in the door,
Right.
makes
true.
us look smart,
Yeah.
send them to the lender if they haven't already been
Yeah.
there, and then come back to it.
Pete,
Yeah.
so let's rewind, because my brain just this moment did the rewind.
Mhm,
So it's 2009, right?
mhm.
You're doing a buyer pre-call. We were asking these questions, if you remember.
I do, I.
So
asked
we
all
were
those,
going deeper then.
Yeah,
And it was, have you had a foreclosure recently?
sure,
Because some people had a foreclosure 6 months ago and they could not buy a house.
for sure.
And they didn't tell us if we didn't ask them.
True story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Or file bankruptcy.
we've gotten away with the pop-up agent. I will go show you a house right now. Nonsense, instead of a full buyer consultation or even a pre-qual. Are you pre-qualing sellers before you go on listing appointments?
Yeah.
Guilty, not like I should be. Dominic and Bill do a 10 times better job. They skip appointments sometimes, they don't skip them. They choose not to go on schedule an appointment sometimes because the seller's not qualified.
Oh, yeah.
So it's acting like a professional.
Oh, sure.
And if we want to ask the buyer to start paying our commission, we need to know that they are able to,
Yeah.
which is where this comes from. So that'll lead me, am I allowed to Michael Perna this thing?
Absolutely.
All right. So that leads me to my next thought.
Is that positive or negative?
I mean, so far, you're much more organized than Michael. You're still staying on the same topic.
Okay.
4 minutes.
So that brings me to my next thought. So buyer wants a $500,000 house. Seller's not offering commission. Now we're asking said buyer to pay us how much?
3%.
Which is
16.
$15,000, right? Now, in my world, $15,000 is still $15,000, right? It's not a little, a lot.
Yeah.
So right now, if I'm a buyer, okay, agent, why are you worth $15,000?
Sure.
I'm only worth 7. You guys, I'm only worth 7.
Oh, candy.
Not all at once.
Oh, you're really asking? Oh.
Because we're going to, negotiate for them.
Okay,
These are the easy things.
Be
okay.
able to get you into houses of your choice, unlike a lawyer, they just look over contracts and X out voided, null and void paragraphs. anyway.
Strategize offers.
Strategy, yeah.
Is that different than negotiate?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's writing the offer to be in the best position as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
So you don't have to negotiate.
I got a guy, put you in the direction and get you some inspectors, plumbers.
Referrals.
Big referrals, yeah, things like that that you need. The process of actually buying a home.
I'll type in a Google search for it. That's what you're saying?
No, these are vetted,
No.
vetted professionals.
I'm challenging you.
Sure.
No,
So
I will.
I can find my own
recommend-
inspector. Here, look, Google, there's 10.
Well-
We are working on a preferred vendor. You guys submit your vendors and they get vetted and marked as preferred. We have.
Well, people
I
we
have
work
a
with and have
vendor.
experience with that we know do a quality job as opposed to just Googling some random person. So
They can
there's
have their
like-
family just paint reviews.
Coordinate
Yeah.
title company processing and making sure there are no liens on the property.
You're gonna do that?
I said coordinate with the title company because yes, if there is a lien on the property, then we shift into another, you may have to go to probate or whatever, and they don't know how to do that or what has to happen. They're gonna have to hire an attorney. They don't even know there's a lien against the title of the property because it's never been a problem before.
So we'll facilitate contract to close.
Right.
Okay,
Navigating pitfalls,
huh?
navigating pitfalls, unexpected pitfalls.
Okay,
Outliers, yes.
okay,
So you want the
Knowing
weapon?
I think like the buyers I'm working with, you're relying on me to know the local ordinances, local inspection requirements. Relying on me to know that, so it would be.
What questions to even ask?
So can I
Local
just say,
ordinances also.
we need to be very careful there. That is something that I would say, here's your phone number to call
Yes,
Hamburg
absolutely.
Township if you want to build a garage.
Mm.
What does that word?
intricacies, a donut. That's my best attempt there.
Is this, but you can't, you don't want to be that
No
person.
middleman for that.
You don't want to be that middleman for any municipality or whatever. I can say, hey, this municipality requires, I can call a municipality,
Yes.
find out things. Probably all I care about is that it needs a municipality inspection.
Correct.
But when it comes to adding on or certain things that they need to find out directly,
Mm.
I can tell them, it's well, it's septic, it's city water. We need to do this inspection then.
But they don't.
So we're telling
Okay, you're
them-
gonna say Google, but I'm gonna say they don't know what they don't know.
No,
Exactly.
Okay, so so say what you're saying, because I'm a buyer, because right now I don't really, so you're saying you're gonna help me or you're giving me work?
I will direct you to, so that you can have a conversation on your own with that municipality about what's allowed on the property and what's not allowed.
Connect her with the township.
What I
And even if
say
it's
to
not
that-
connection, knowing what to ask and what to.
Right.
Yes.
What things to be aware of.
So how I get around, because I had that question asked, well, why don't you call it for me? Well, instead, I don't want to shoot the messenger because I'm not actually buying the house and living there. So I'm gonna give you the correct numbers to call, whom to speak with. I'll give you some starter questions on what I know you should ask. And each question that's answered usually lines up with another question.
Yeah,
So with you being there, I want it to come straight from the horse's mouth. And I want you to be in the know of what you need to do and really decide, so you can make an educated decision if you want to move forward or not. And that's, you know.
Without my
really diligence period.
interpretation, direct from the horse's mouth, without my interpretation.
Absolutely. And because my next question, when you answer something, I'm going a different way and you could think of something completely different to
Right.
where I'm now opening myself to get sued because I didn't ask a question that you would have asked,
Do that.
you know?
I think that works with HOAs too, when you give the HOA information, there are gonna be things in there that you would think are important. That are gonna be important to your buyer, and the same as with the township.
Like what kind of trees they can plant, like I wouldn't. necessarily
how
make
about
that
just
known
pointing
brought up,
out
you
the
know?
fact that there is an HOA? If they don't know how to interpret that sheet,
Sure,
I mean, and they buy a house where there is an HOA and they don't even know,
sure.
that, I just think that there are things that we see in the multi-list that are important to a buyer that they wouldn't think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And even us too, because we do so much
Mhm.
without even thinking that putting it down on a sheet. Like I was reading one the other day, I'm like, holy cow, I do all of that
Mhm.
and more. Like I can even add on to this, but putting it in writing, like we're doing right now, like,
I think we're missing probably the most important one, which is why we're worth $15,000 on this house. And it's, so think of think of a time where you were a listing agent or a buyer's agent and you either accepted an offer or got your offer accepted. Why?
Relationship building.
Bam. That's
Trust.
exactly right. Agent relationships. Shit.
With other agents?
Yes,
Okay, yes, that is critical.
I think that's probably the number one thing that we can hang our hats on, because we can say the relationships that we have with other agents within the community will get you in a home sooner and save you money, because if you buy a house in a month versus buy a house in a year, how much money have you made / saved? You more than pay for my services because it didn't take a year to get you a house.
Or you could say, I know this agent, he might try to do this, but I've worked with him before and blah, 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 blah.
isn't that walking the line of, what is that, not redlining or steering, but like saying that I can get it accepted, cause I know this agent, like I try to, like, oh yeah, I've done deals with this agent, you know, I even try to like downplay it sometimes. because
For
if it's not
figures
accepted-
aside,
Yeah,
Farron, I know that if I accept an offer from you, I know several
Oh, you're
things.
working.
One, I know you're gonna get shit done.
yeah.
2, I know you're not gonna blow smoke up my ass. 3, I know you're gonna live by the Y4Cs, 2 Cs and an S or whatever it is now, right? I know that barring something catastrophic at the inspection, we're gonna close this deal.
Sure.
Versus cousin Sally, who this is their 1 or 2 deals a year that they do because of their aunt. They don't even fill out the damn PA correctly.
For sure.
So the other thing though with that agent relationship is I can find out they've got a few offers. I'll see if it's cash. I'll see,
Right.
you know, if she's willing to share, he or she's willing to share some information because we've done deals together before. So having that relationship isn't a guarantee, but what it is a communication opportunity to find out what is really going on and can we get you in the house.
That's kind of how I swing my lenders also, like I know they'll get it done and.
So, all right, so now I'm gonna put my buyer hat back on. Y'all keep your agent hats on. What if I say, okay, those are all really good things? But is it worth, would you be doing the same things for me if I was buying a $250,000 house?
Absolutely,
So so now, why is it worth double?
right.
Well, the $250,000.
What are you doing differently though?
It's not what I'm doing differently, it's what the value of your home is and what your investment is. And it's much more important to buy better insurance for your home and your investment. I'm an insurance policy. And that's
Ooh, I
gonna
like
be,
that.
that's gonna be comparatively different for the value of the home.
But what are you doing different?
What am I doing different?
Yeah, what are you doing different for this house versus if I was buying one for 250?
That is a really good question.
We have to, believe me, those questions are
Oh,
gonna
for
get
sure.
asked.
I think that honestly, some of our level of earnings is gonna change to some extent that we just may have to say, okay, all right, let's do what we can do here.
I think also, I mean.
I don't think we have to,
What if
though.
it's one showing? I mean, that's the other thing, if you show them one house and they get the house and you've done one showing and you're gonna charge them $15,000 and you know what I'm saying? It's.
Well, I think that
that's
goes
how
back
it works.
to the guy that hit the hull of the ship with a hammer and charged
You're paying for my years of experience, not for
Right.
how long it took me to get to there.
100%.
Right.
So we can even add this to this experience,
For sure.
but we need to be able to communicate that and why that's important. So like an insurance policy, the Bible is full of parables because it's easy to understand with stories, right? So we have to we as a realtor community, we have to come up with how we're going to communicate this other than just labeling. We do this, 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 we do this.
Yeah.
Something else that's really valid, let's talk about your education and the fact that we're doing things like this and doing education and, you know,
Getting ahead
community
of it.
accreditation,
Sure.
things like that, just adding that.
Knowledge, yeah. wisdom,
But
but
I think at the end of the day, though,
Yeah.
it doesn't, as consumers, it always matters, like, what's the benefits to me?
Right.
You can tell me all your features you want, you can tell me all your credentials, what's the benefits to me?
Yep.
So we have to learn to talk in benefit.
I like
more
that.
What am I getting? What am I
More
getting for
than
my
in
money?
features, benefits first,
Sure.
stories, features are there.
And I think as buying agents, I think the benefit can be because you're gonna get a house.
Simple as that.
Well, right, and flipping it back to, I mean, I'm still,
They don't wanna do this on their own. We
yeah,
already know
$13,000 as opposed to doing the same
they
thing
wouldn't
for
be coming.
$6,000. That's a really.
I think with
freaking
this,
Valid question.
with the showing, this is gonna become even more important because now you don't have to go to the listing agent for every house you wanna see. And try and negotiate with the listing agent to one, show you the house, two, write the offer for you, and three, you can negotiate your commission with them.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
'Cause that's gonna-
Their fiduciary.
That's gonna be a
That'll
thought.
It's gonna
Not
cost
you.
a lot of money because they're not gonna negotiate on your behalf, they're gonna negotiate on their seller's behalf.
Right, so
Absolutely.
that's gonna be a thought for a
People are
lot of
gonna be like,
buyers.
"Oh, if I just go to them,
I'm
then
just
I
gonna
don't
go
have
to
pay
them."
The other commission, and then, but you're not getting any protection or insurance.
So
But
we,
they don't have
yeah,
your best
They don't
Yep.
have your best interest.
fiduciary.
we'll have to
there's no
come up
responsibility to you.
with scripts around that too, so we're talking about that before they ask the question.
Yeah, I've literally, I've had many people do that already, like they want to go to the listing agent to, because the sellers are paying her commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
To cut out that commission, they think they can get a better deal.
Right,
It's like, you have to go in, well, everything that you tell them, they legally have to tell the seller, you have no negotiations, no nothing. And their job is to get the highest price for the listing agent, whether you use representation or not.
right,
That's
exactly.
still their check. They're still writing their check.
Mhm. So
Ugh.
if you haven't thought about this yet, I would encourage you to think about it often, write it down and practice how you say this.
Yeah,
Because as agents, we've never really had to say it before. All we've had to say was the seller pays our commission.
right,
And
right.
if they're only offering 2% or 2.5%, I'm not gonna come after you the difference, even though the contract says I will.
So, as a listing agent and doing what we do, how is that going to change the conversation? Because for me, like, I would still like to get the 6% and have it be paid by the seller.
Yeah.
Or, you know, out of the gross or whatever.
So this same conversation that we have with the buyer, we have with the seller also to show what the buying agent is doing.
Yeah.
And what I'm gonna do for you, seller, when we go to buy a house.
That was
Because
saying,
you do
like,
with
they
your
do more
sellers, you're on
legwork,
both
like
sides of
buyer's
that.
agent. I
You
don't
have
deserve
to
no
be
money
able
as
to
the
do
buyer's
both.
agent.
The best way to show, the best way to get that is to show them what they're essentially paying for.
Yeah.
And as selling agents, I think we all need to stay strong and say, hey, if a buyer comes to us, we're still gonna charge the same commission to that
Yeah,
buyer.
right.
Because the second we start doing it for 1% on a double dip,
Yeah.
that word's gonna get out real quick.
Which is already.
Also, it could
Discount
be
agents are
discriminatory if you're
money.
changing what you're charging on, without some
Sure.
sort of consistency, you have a fair housing issue.
I think the other hard part though is to be a fiduciary for the seller. And so you're trying to help the seller make the most amount of money on their house. Yet I'm gonna try to convince you why you should pay theoretically the most amount of commission to the buyer's agent. When,
So to bring them to your house.
right, but when the trend is potentially not like that. And so, again, and I'm thinking about, I think it's harder on the bigger houses, the higher priced houses.
Yeah.
You know,
There may be
We have
a
a-
flat fee.
we have a
of that.
potential listing come up, you know, like $800,000 listing.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna convince that seller to pay 3% of 800,000 to the other agent, when everything you hear in the media is, you know, no longer have to do that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So then how do we as a listing agent make that seller feel like I'm helping you to get the most money, yet I'm getting you to pay, you know, $25,000 to the other side?
Yeah.
So then, so
that it gets shown.
Right.
So what I've done too, like with my farming postcards and stuff like that, I've actually had the formula written out, and I've done it for years of why you should use an agent. I know like years ago, like the math was like, we would get you what, 14% or 7% higher, which is my commissions already covered because of just using an agent, because of the exposure, because of our knowledge and things like that, you know, so it would go back to that same thing, like, if you're offering buyer commission, more buyers agents are obviously gonna want to show the house and work with you, and you're gonna have a pick up a litter type of thing too, so.
But that's interesting. I hear what you're saying, but it's interesting. So then, as a skeptical seller, I would say, so you're telling me if we don't offer more commission, then people won't show you my house, like other agents?
Right.
It makes the industry look bad.
True, but we also
Agents-
work for commission, we work on.
I don't like that, because
It's true.
have you ever not shown a house because of what they're offering?
I haven't, some agents have.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I have not shown, I have specifically not shown a house, and this isn't really true, because of the listing agent and who they were, those are on my blacklist.
Do
Well, it's
you
like not
really
wanting to go
think,
to for sale by owners, right?
And
I
This
got
is
buyers
going
now
to
that wanna
be-
look at these for sale by owners, and they don't wanna pay any
like,
commission, they
the
don't want
next
any
listing
commission.
appointment I go on?
And so how I
I'm
usually
not
swing it to
going
them is,
Address it.
I will
in
reach
your
out to
proposal.
the,
If they
the
don't respond,
seller
then
and see if they're
I'm
willing
not
to
gonna
make
make
a
a
buyer's
deal.
agent. If they are not, are you willing to
Unless
get
it
into this
comes up,
contract?
we have
not
a
being
contract,
represented?
you've already
Or are you
agreed to
willing to
pay
pay
me
me for
6%,
representation
and
to
I've
walk you through
paying
this,
the 3%
you know,
go.
same thing.
And
And
a
some
lot
of
of
the times,
times know that.
when that happens, when they're not, like Katie was saying, when they're not being represented or handheld, they'll go in and 9.5 out of 10, they're not even buying that house, like, oh, it was overpriced anyway.
I don't think.
I wanna do it. I wanna work with you, I feel safe with you, because you're their soundboard, you're asking them questions, you're also their fucking marriage counselor. And everything
More
else,
than a-
you know,
And that could be
and that's a real
Point of
difficult conversation,
conversation.
like, I don't mind,
We're
I
also
would
not
still have to
licensed
work
for
with you,
counseling.
but this seller is not willing to pay me, so if you're willing to go.
Can't really
represent
I
it,
had to have
let's
a
do it.
conversation with them.
Yeah.
I love the house, and I'm like, well, you have to pay for it.
Yeah. So. And then too, even going, my girlfriend just wrote a really great couple paragraphs about, the question of why wouldn't I just use a lawyer? When you're paying a lawyer the same amount of money, but they're not directing you into any sort of anything, like I said before, they're just crossing out.
Mhm.
If you're on city water and there's a well paragraph, guess what? They're crossing that out to make it look like job security here. They're not
They
doing
don't know
anything.
anything.
No,
about
they
the
don't.
selling.
No,
They don't even know what a ladder is in a house, in many
Right.
cases.
for sure.
All right, so to have the same conversation of why am I worth, what's the value of me as a buyer's agent? Let's ask that question a different way. The amount of money we earn is in direct proportion to three things. I think not literally, but
Our skill set.
good, that's where I want you to go. So one, your skill set or your ability to do it. Ability.
That's so mean.
Actually, this is number two. Your ability to do it. The need
Oh, yeah.
for what you do.
Like supply and demand type of thing.
Like the need of a buyer's agent.
Okay.
And your ability to be a buyer's agent.
Okay.
And number three, and probably the most important thing, is
Willingness of the buyer to pay.
the difficulty it is to replace you. That's the value. So the amount of money that we earn is in direct proportion to the need for what you do, that your ability to do it, and the difficulty it would be to replace you. So the need for what you do, is there a need for what we do? Yes.
Yeah.
Your ability to do it, that's where this scenario, like you guys were saying, comes in handy, is we're getting better. There is a better agent than the person next to you, right? Always somebody better. So that is a yes. Now, the biggest thing is the difficulty it is to replace you. And that's where the whole conversation we just had comes in, is what are you doing that I couldn't just go find somewhere else for cheaper?
Right. You can always find a discount.
That's why the
Anything.
relationship is so terribly important. I think,
Get what you pay for.
they don't want to have to go search for somebody and then try to find a house. If we're talking about the buyer, part of it is that relationship. If I look back on my buyers, they really needed me to help them. And they didn't want to have to talk to the seller or deal with all of that, because they didn't know what they were dealing with.
For sure.
So the trust and relationship, I think, is huge in number one, getting you paid, but if they don't have the money to pay you, you'll have to make some tough decisions, especially if they're your brother or your sister.
I just thought of something too that, I've had to use in the past also, is going back to if they don't know what they don't know. How, I'm willing to have the awkward conversations for you. Because how awkward is it for you to go to the seller themselves and say, hey, your house sucks and I want 15 grand off of it. Good luck having that conversation without a professional level of, any type of courtesy. And when emotions are in it, I'm here to take the emotion out of it and go as a, professional business deal. But, yeah, sorry, that just.
So let's go down that road a little bit more. So let's say you want the house, let's say you decide that you don't want to use a buyer's agent. You're going to go through the listing agent every single time. You go to the house and you're like, that house is not worth what you want. I want it for $15,000 less. So you as a buyer think, okay, I'm just going to offer $15,000 less, right? But we as buyer's agents know that if you offer what they're asking, but instead ask for $15,000 in concessions, Victor would tell us and could show us that $15,000 in concessions to go towards a 2-1 buy down or a rate drop or whatever. The difference in payment in a $15,000 less mortgage versus that putting that concessions towards whatever is what, 15 times
Yeah.
the savings?
Yeah.
So having that 2-1 buy down conversation, even knowing to have that conversation versus where the seller's gonna be like, great, I'll write you an offer of 15 grand less.
Right,
Because I can't advise you otherwise.
right,
Even if I was a dual agent, I still can't advise you how to write an offer.
right.
I just have to write it. So I like that. That's a good little bit of tools. Let's look at that same initial question from another angle. So in life, when was the last time y'all paid somebody $15,000 to do something?
When I bought a house.
When I had remodeling done,
Oh, remodeling, yeah, I just did that.
and then I lost the 25,000.
Okay, but think of it this way, because that's kind of where my head went to, is remodeling or building or something like that. But was it $15,000 for the project, or was it $15,000 to the person that did it?
Oh, so you're saying materials or knowledge?
Or just like anything? I'm
Everything.
trying, because I'm trying to figure out what we can equate this to, what we can,
Sure.
and where I'm going with it is, let's say you were paying, let's say I was a classic car guy and I wanted a 67 Chevelle tricked out with no rust on it. I don't care what it is. I'll pay you $15,000 to go find it and I'll buy the car.
This is the most expensive thing they will ever buy in their life.
I know, but they don't, that doesn't comprehend yet.
Dollars on it.
So where I'm going is, so now, Farron, I'm hiring you to go find me that car. What are my expectations? What am I getting other than the car? What am I expecting you to do
You have to go and find it.
to go out and find it, and what else?
Vet, literally search it down, do the mailers follow leads. Is that where you're going?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess where I'm going is, as a buyer,
Mhm.
I'm hiring you and my budget is 500 grand, so I'm gonna pay you $15,000. What am I expecting for that money?
Like market value, like in CMA. I mean, people can find houses now. We're not finding houses. I mean, Zillow, wherever else, they find houses, but they don't know if the house is worth that.
Yes.
And so part of our value could be bringing them that this house is, overpriced, underpriced.
I mean, I just
You
have-
are doing some of that.
I don't know though, because a lot of, I mean, buyers are the most educated they've ever been before. My last couple of deals, they were looking up comps just as I was. They're like, yeah, I can look it up right here. I just saw one is down the street sold for this. I don't think it's that much, like.
Well, I think
Really,
so.
the information is there. They can do it too. It's if they want to, right? You're paying for your time, your time and effort.
In our knowledge
How
that
many people-
we've done
Defense
more
attorney.
than-
Sure, sure.
Yeah, defense attorneys, probably your divorce attorney.
I think a good way to answer this question is to look exactly at what they
Defense attorney, anything
told
else?
us.
Real estate attorneys were gonna cost more than that if it ends up.
And they can't even get you in the fucking house and they're not
Yeah.
giving you any, excuse my bombs, but.
Any valuable advice,
No,
and they're charging for every piece of paper they're.
How do we find out
$500
whether or
an
not
hour,
sellers are
$100 an
gonna
hour.
be paying?
You have to ask.
So we can ask
there's a call them.
the agent, right? We can call the agent and talk to them.
And we've been told if it's not in writing, it's not for real, so. You need to document it somehow, just not on a whole lot.
It's a good point, yeah.
Like document everything, but not what you're worth or getting paid. Okay.
Can't we make, don't you think there's gonna be some,
Like a resource.
well, or we're
How
gonna
much
head in
do
one
you-
direction and then they're gonna come up with some different things that make sense. I just don't think it's gonna be black and white. I think that either they'll come up with caps or they'll come up with some kind of signature, like I've got a copy, you said that you'll pay 3%, your seller will pay 3%. How do I know that? Well, if I sent you a notice of buyer agency and they all sign it,
Even if we're gonna.
is that my document?
In our purchase agreement, when we go and write the offer, right?
Yeah, it's in the new
So we
purchase
put it in
agreement.
the, because we talked to them first and then write it up. the
And
offer,
I've
then in there.
heard from multiple, lawyers too, that commission should not be in the purchase agreement.
What is
Yeah, I don't think
happening?
it should be in the purchase agreement.
It's normal.
What about those
Just
agents
like,
that don't answer the phone?
or just like, for sure,
Right.
just like, oh, see, I just seen another good one too. reading. Right here.
It's scary in parents' head.
Seriously.
I'm gonna,
It's gonna happen on occasion.
It already is.
I think for the next 3 years, yes, until people realize that, oh crap, I am a buyer also. I don't really want to do that.
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
that's the thing, that it shouldn't even be in the purchase agreement on. That
It kinda has
determines on the seller's, need a loan product. So why is it adding your business, what kind of loan or how much I'm putting down?
But now that the seller's paying us and it's not in the MLS, it has to be in the purchase agreement. Because otherwise, how will they know what to pay you?
It'd be an addendum.
Yes, because
And
the
being a
purchase
rental.
agreement is really for the mortgage.
Absolutely.
And that
That's
buyer
very
agency agreement that's between you and your buyer
Yeah.
now has to be shared with the listing agent, even though he's not party to it. Because, well, it can't be more than your buyer's agency agreement, so it kind of has to be shared. Like your buyer agency agreement has to line up with what's.
Like an exclusive, or your exclusive buyer agency? Yeah. People said no, no, no.
Kind of down to share.
Yeah, I don't, it's none of your business.
Right.
But
But now it is business. Now it
No,
is-
it definitely, no, it definitely is.
Right.
All right, so I don't know why this didn't work the first time.
I remember. I don't even know what they're doing. Taking this away.
Well,
I try to protect the buyers. How are you protecting the buyers by taking away the representation? You're literally making them go, what was the parody that we use? Using the prosecution when you're the fucking defendant.
in 1995, there was no such a thing. 1994,
Yeah.
there was no such a thing as buyer agency.
Right.
It changed towards the end of 94, the beginning of 95. And so we have always been paid by the seller. And we've always been representing the seller
Right.
up until that point.
Right.
And I know that when that changed, it was kind of freaky.
I remember Tilla Ruspa, even that coming in, like a 3-day, that was all because of one senator had buyer's remorse and got pissed that he felt that he was rushed. Probably used a lawyer. Also, there is a lawyer, and then he got Tilla Ruspa even put into place, now we have a 72-hour hold. And we thought, oh my God, what a big deal it's gonna be, that's not, it came out with even better, more easily written, or digestible really, all the statements, because now they're line by line items. I think it's always scarier in our heads, and frankly, the only part that really scares me is justifying my work, because I've never done doing that. And then he asked me for that big number, the 15, why the fuck, you're right, why am I worth $15,000 when I showed you 2 houses? You're right. Shit, I had a hard time asking for $600 for a broker compliance.
I do feel
You
bad
know, like-
sometimes when
But we
Right,
need to
so
know our worth and
nine,
be
yeah.
confident in that, right?
So I think,
Really out of the box way of thinking, but when you ask, what other thing can you think of that you pay that much? And the first thing I thought was like college. Think of it, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, right? You pay, what, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 dollars? Yeah, sometimes you think yourself is college worth it. But if you look at like doctors and lawyers and the return on investment after years, it's well worth it. Same thing as a house. If you look at it right up front, okay,
Like
15,000,
WebMD,
maybe
yeah.
not, but
Right.
at 15,000 worth of education and getting you that house and then years to come and go sell it. I think the value's there.
mhm.
I love that.
You
I love
reap
that stuff.
that 3% back in the first, theoretically,
Sure.
first year.
Year.
Sure.
we have to get educated, we have to go to classes.
So here's what the buyers are telling us they want. Right, from a buyer's agent. So
Yeah.
when we ask this question, as a buyer, what do we want our agent to do? They already answered the question, it's right here. There's 2 slides. There's this one, It's the most important factors for buyers, for finding an agent, and then,
Yeah, we need to put that next buyer consult.
Yeah.
values.
For real.
Where's the other one? Home buyers found their agent, most important, no, that's the one we just looked at. Didn't I just have it pulled up? Doggone it.
Yeah, we did, we look at it last. Week too.
What buyers want from their agent. So this is what they want from their agent. So when they're asking this question, why are you worth 15 grand? That's what they want us to do.
Is that what they want us to do, or is that what they think we do? Because I see their. help
Perception
finding
is
the right
reality though, right?
purchase, But they're on Zillow day in, day out. They know.
For
what
sure.
purchase.
So yes, exactly. And if they don't feel like they're 50% of the people don't feel like we're agents finding their home, that needs to be brought up immediately. And the way I do that, in every single buyer consultation I do is I say, all right, Kim, number one thing, and in fact, this is the number one complaint from every buyer I've ever talked to, is that they say, well, my agent didn't find the house. I found it, sent it to them. We went, and looked at it, and I don't even know what they did to earn their money.
Right.
How many times have we heard that? We've heard that many times before. And chances are, Kim, you're gonna find the house. So I'm on the MLS in the morning and in the afternoon, looking at the new inventory and what's came back on market with price reduced. You, as a buyer right now, especially today, how often would you say you're on Zillow right now, even before we've met?
Every half hour.
3-4 times a day.
Exactly. You probably, in fact, you probably have an alert set up so that something new comes on the market, it gets notification to you immediately, right?
Right.
Right. I don't have that set up for your criteria. If I did, I would be getting emails and text messages 37 times a day, and I wouldn't be able to keep it straight.
Bless you.
Know that I saw that house also, and when you're getting that notification, please send that to me. We'll get you in the house immediately. I'm either gonna see it the next morning or in that afternoon, but just know that you're probably gonna see it before me, and that's okay. So having that conversation, because half the people already think we don't do anything but find them a house.
And I might have passed on that house for you because it had a pool, you said you didn't want that.
Right.
But it could have had so many other things that you're willing to compromise that
Right.
you
Yeah.
just realize in the moment, that you realize.
And
that you're really
Kim,
compromising.
if it's something that you found on your own that you want to go see, but I didn't send it to you, now there's a disconnect between what you said you wanted and what we agreed on, what we're looking for. And that's okay. It's easy to change things. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as you so I can match my motivation to your motivation.
And here I piggyback on that as well and say the information and the MLS with your specific criteria is only as good as the agent that input the information to begin with.
Right.
You don't know how many houses that I've shown that said no basement or unfinished basement had a full freaking walkout basement or no garage, and there's a garage in the front picture with a pole barn. You know, so if you find, and for real, so like if you, if a house that you like that didn't send, except for me, let me know and I'll get you in, or if it's on Zillow, I'll let you know if it was sold 3 years ago, and it's still not really available.
All right, so that brings us to,
Ooh, hold on.
yes,
One really quick point. And if you think that I didn't do that much and you had a smooth transaction, just know that all the behind the scenes you weren't supposed to know everything that went on. That's also a part of my job to get to have such a pleasant experience. Sometimes it's not great because it still is great.
Mhm.
Right? But, if you didn't feel every bump in the road, you had a pleasant experience, then that's just an experience as well.
who has read 10x is easier than 2x? I haven't read the whole thing yet. I'm working on it right now, but there was a good sentence in there where they said, the person who gives you $500 to go invest for them, and it's the only $500 they have, that $500 means everything to them, and they're gonna expect a lot from it. Whereas the person that gives you $15,000 to go do what you want with it, so a person buying a $100,000 house versus a person buying a $500,000 house, is gonna give it to you and say, let me know when it's done. So so what that says to me also is people with the money it's gonna be a lot easier and willing and able to pay us versus not. So we just have to
I mean,
keep that in mind as well.
$150,000 transaction is usually way more bumpy
Oh,
than
yeah.
400,000.
Yep.
You know?
I don't know what that means, but, all right, so before it's 11 o'clock, we have 2 minutes. I do have a quick market update. Can I give it? All right, cool. And Aaron, to answer your question, do you think varying commissions on the buyer to buyer basis might open up the door? That's a great question. Probably. I mean, reading it like that, yeah, well, I'll agree to 2.5 with you or 3 with you or 1.5 for you. I don't know why that wouldn't be fair housing.
Seriously,
Yeah,
for real.
It's 100% fair housing.
it really is. That's crazy.
And don't tell anybody, but I'll do it for 1.5
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah, that's a
And
great
if-
point.
You know, if you have some very clear
All-
standards that you use all the time, like my sister gets a break and nobody else gets a break, or,
A
you know,
family member.
Although
Right now.
although the saying does go, we cannot discriminate against anything except for money. If you can't afford it, you can't have it. I'm not gonna show it to you, you can't afford it. I'm not gonna work with you, you can't afford it.
Right.
We're allowed to say that, so maybe this falls under that somehow. All right, so market update real quick. Through March 26th, from March 1st to March 26th, this is kind of where these numbers fall, okay? So last year, the month of March, for the first 26 days, we had between Howell, Brighton, Heartland, Pinckney, Fowlerville, and South Lyon schools. There was 2,657 showings. This year, there's 2,649 showings. So 8 less showings
Oh, wow.
this year versus the month of March last year. I think that's pretty encouraging, actually, because it's kind of just the water's leveling. Here's some more encouraging things about that number, those numbers exactly. So this is now this is through March 26th, from January 1st to March 26th. This time last year to date, there was a -5% appreciation. So 2023 versus 2022. This time this year versus 2023, there's a 4.5% appreciation. So a huge swing. So what that means is prices are going up. Also, new listings are up, pendings are up, closings are up, values are up.
It doesn't feel.
All good things. Now, up can mean 1, right?
Sure.
But they're all up, which is encouraging because days on market are down. And the average priced home at the interest rate this time last year cost somebody $2,361. The average price home at today's interest rate costs somebody $2,549. So almost $200 more today to buy a house than this day last year. But listings are up, pendings are up, closings are up, values are up, appreciation is up, and showings are pretty much equal. So even though it costs people $200 more, which is it's like 8% more to buy a house today than this time last year, all the other metrics that we want to be good are good. So what does that mean? It means normalization. People are okay with it. People are moving even though it costs more. The average age of a loan is what, 4 or 6 years or whatever? The percentage of people that are going to keep a 3.5% interest rate for 30 years is probably less than 10% of those people.
Right.
So even though I'm not moving, why would I? I promise you, you will. And when you're ready to do that, I'm here for you.
Or keep it, rent it out, and let's buy a new one.
Yeah.
And fix it.
And a year later, after they have one tenant, they're going to sell it.
Sure, because people suck.
Yeah. All right. That was our team meeting today. Hope it was valuable to you guys.
Definitely got the wheels turning, that's for sure.
Let's do this again on Thursday, but we'll just do more role play on Thursday
What time?
at noon. The 2.0 series, yeah.
Are you adding that?
I mean, yes, but we're all gonna just role play. And I appreciate y'all online hopping on as well.